if you're a tenant in Cook County or looking to rent in Cook County, or if you're a landlord in Cook County.
We put together a video for you to kind of summarize the key components of the Cook County lease. Take a look.
Look, if you're a new tenant getting ready to move into a rental property in Cook County, you already know the drill. Moving is incredibly stressful. You've got boxes stacked literally to the ceiling, you're on hold with utility companies, and honestly, you're probably just exhausted. So when that massive multi-page lease contract is finally slid across the table, I know it is incredibly tempting to just scribble your signature on the dotted line without reading the fine print, just to get it over with, right? But wait, before you pick up that pen, we really need to talk about what you're agreeing to, and more importantly, what you absolutely should not be agreeing to. It's a totally serious question. Are you absolutely sure your new lease is completely legal? It might actually shock you to learn that a ton of standard rental contracts contain hidden clauses that directly violate local law. Sometimes, yeah, it's just an outdated template the landlord is using, but other times, landlords sneak illegal provisions into these standard contracts, just hoping you won't know any better. Well, we're going to close that knowledge gap right now. Enter your absolute secret weapon, the RTLO, or the Residential Tenant Landlord Ordinance. If you are renting in suburban Cook County, this local law is basically your ultimate shield against unfair landlord practices. And the most important thing you need to grasp here is that the RTLO overrides any shady language written into your contract. It's true. Even if you accidentally sign a lease that contains an illegal rule, the RTLO steps right in to protect you. So, here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to quickly cover your baseline Cook County tenant rights, expose those illegal lease red flags, show you how to protect your wallet from unfair fees, decode the security deposit rules, and finally, review the Safe Homes Act protections. Okay, starting with Section 1, your Cook County tenant rights. This is all about knowing your baseline protections. Let's dive right in and establish what you are guaranteed under the law before we even look at what a landlord might try to take away from you. Under the RTLO, you have the fundamental right to a habitable unit. That means one that is safely maintained and actually meets building codes. You are legally entitled to adequate heat, for sure. You are also guaranteed privacy. Unless there is a genuine, immediate emergency, your landlord must give you a 48-hour notice before just waltzing into your apartment. But here is the biggest one, and it surprises a lot of renters. There is an absolute ban on lockouts. A landlord can never, under any circumstances, change your locks, take your doors off the hinges, or shut off your utilities to force you out. It is strictly prohibited, and honestly, if they try it, you can sue for substantial damages. Which brings us to Section 2, illegal lease red flags. What simply cannot be in your contract. Now that you know your baseline rights, you need to actively look for specific red flags when you're reviewing your new lease. Keep an eye out for this rapid-fire list of legal jargon, and if you see it, you should immediately be crossing it out. A landlord cannot ask you to waive your rights to proper legal notices, like a standard 5-day notice for late rent. They definitely cannot make you give up your right to a jury trial. Watch out for non-disparagement clauses, too. These are basically gag orders preventing you from saying negative things or posting public reviews about the property or the management company. No way. And finally, a lease cannot force you to give a longer notice period for moving out than the landlord has to give you for not renewing the lease. It has to be a two-way street. And here is one of the most specific, sneaky tactics out there. Some leases try to claim that if you owe a fine or utility charge, the landlord can just take your rent check and apply it to those extra fees first. Do you see what happens there? That means your rent suddenly becomes unpaid, which then triggers severe late fees. Well, the RTLO explicitly bans this. Your rent payment must be applied to your rent, period. Now, what's really interesting about Section 3 is how it protects your money. Let's talk about unfair fees and charges. Moving into a new place is insanely expensive already without being nickel and dimed by prohibited financial penalties. So let's talk late fees. If you pay your rent late, a landlord might try to hit you with an arbitrary junk fee, like a flat $100 penalty. That is illegal. The RTLO actually sets a strict mathematical cap on this. The absolute maximum a landlord can charge for late rent is $10 for the first $1,000 of your rent, plus 5% on anything above that $1,000 mark. If your lease says anything else, it's violating the ordinance. And hey, while we're speaking of prohibited fees, let's look at move-in fees. A landlord cannot just take a prohibited charge, rename it a move-in fee, and slap it on your bill to make a quick buck. Under the law, any move-in fee must be a reasonable estimate directly tied to the landlord's actual administrative or physical costs of getting you into the building. Think things like trash removal or elevator reservations. Moving right along to Section 4, Security Deposit Rules Explained. keeping your money protected. Let's transition to what is almost always the single largest sum of cash involved in your move, the security deposit. Because this is such a massive chunk of change, Cook County has laid down incredibly rigid rules to protect it. The crucial number to remember here is 1.5 times. A landlord can literally never demand a security deposit that exceeds 1.5 times your monthly rent. So if your rent is $1,000 a month, your deposit cannot legally be more than $1,500. It's a hard cap. But the protections don't stop at just the amount. Your deposit is not the landlord's personal piggy bank. It must be held in a separate, federally insured account in an Illinois financial institution, and they are legally required to actually tell you the name of that institution. When you hand over the cash, you must receive a signed receipt detailing the exact amount and the date. And the best part? When it's time to move out, assuming there's no unpaid rent or damage beyond normal wear and tear, that deposit must be returned to you within 30 days. Boom.
All right, Section 5, Safe Homes Act protections. This is your emergency safety net.
Now, we really need to shift gears and look at an entirely different but absolutely vital layer of protection. For tenants dealing with the horrific realities of domestic violence or sexual assault, Cook County enforces the Safe Homes Act. Basically, this act turns dense legal rights into an actionable checklist for survivors who need to secure their home immediately. First, you must give written notice to your landlord of an imminent threat of domestic or sexual violence. Second, you provide evidence. This can be medical, court, or police documentation, or honestly even a statement from a victim services organization. Once you do that, the landlord is legally obligated to change your locks or give you permission to do it yourself within 48 hours. And look, if staying in the apartment is simply too dangerous, the Safe Homes Act allows you to break your lease early to escape the threat. The law rightfully prioritizes your physical safety way over a landlord's financial penalties. You absolutely cannot be charged an early lease break fee for fleeing domestic or sexual violence, and you are not responsible for future rent once you have provided notice and permanently left the property. The main takeaway here is that if you find yourself facing literally any of these issues, whether it's an illegal fee, a missing security deposit, or needing to invoke the Safe Homes Act, you do not have to fight alone. There are amazing organizations like Cook County Legal Aid for Housing and Debt offering tangible, totally free resources. Groups like Carpels run a free legal hotline for Cook County residents, and Legal Aid Chicago provides critical assistance for tenants. You have a massive support system standing right behind you. Ultimately, your lease is a negotiation, but your basic rights under the RTLO, those are absolutely not up for debate. No contract can strip away the legal protections that Cook County has deliberately put in place for you. So here is the question you really need to ask yourself the next time you sit down to sign those papers. Now that you know exactly what a legal lease is supposed to look like, are you going to let a landlord dictate terms that break the law, or will you stand firm, cross out those red flags, and protect your home?
We work with both landlords and tenants on renting properties, and we also have the Cook County approved lease available to us if you need to take a look.
We are Joe and Jean Morella with the Spouses Selling Houses team at Keller Williams. Feel free to send us a DM, give us a call, contact us however you feel comfortable. We'd be happy to chat.
Thanks.